Sorry about the wait, guys. I Since school is now in session, I'm still trying to figure everything out. But I found some time to actually do a review this time around, and I'm so excited because I wanted to play this game for so long, but it was only on PC for a little while, and now that it's available in other means, I can finally talk about this great game. Also, I have an announcement. If you guys haven't, go check out the Gaming Spidey on Twitch. He's trying to get to 50 followers, and when he gets to 50 followers, he will do a laxative challenge. And I really want to see him freaking do this. So please go check him out before the review starts. Please go check him out. I will leave the link in the description. And with that, let's get started with the review on Hades. Hades was only a PC exclusive until recently. Now it's available on console, but I didn't play that on console. I played it on PC because I was able to get something that'll let me run it. And I've got to say, this game is freaking fantastic. I'm going to say that right off the bat because I understand now why everyone kept saying that this game should have won Game of the Year. I completely understand now because this has so much to offer and it's absolutely great in all aspects. And I'm gonna say it right off the bat, go play this game. This game is an absolute masterpiece. And honestly, this sets another example in terms of like good gaming. Like this game is fucking fantastic. In this game, we get to play as Zagreus. He is the son of Hades, and since he's like the teenager, he's like a delinquent. He wants to leave the underworld because he feels trapped in the underworld, and now he's on a mission to find the secrets of his past. Because turns out the person that was taking care of him at a young age, Nyx, was not his actual mother, and throughout the whole game, you're trying to find a way to escape in order to reunite with your mother and look for answers. This game is a roguelike game, and honestly, this game is very unforgiving because if you remember my Returnal review, it's the similar game mechanic where you die over and over again, but just like in Returnal, you keep all your information and the story progresses as you keep dying over and over again. Like the game doesn't start over right off the bat. Everything kind of interconnects the more you die and the more you progress through the levels here and there. And that's the main thing that makes Hades so great. It's its gameplay. Its gameplay is so much fun. It is very fast paced and it's very smooth. And I've got to say, I'm super impressed because this is a 2D scroller kind of thing. So I wasn't expecting the gameplay to be so smooth and to be very responsive as it is. And it is super responsive, and I've got to say it is very, very well done overall. The level design in this game is absolutely fantastic because there's a lot of ways for you to maneuver around the levels, and you have to look at every single thing on the map because sometimes you can maybe go over something if you're trapped on the corner and you don't even realize it. And the best thing also about the gameplay is that you get to use your environments a lot in this game. If you hit like a pillar, rocks will fall, and you lead an enemy to that, they'll get damaged. Another time, there's like these little spikes on the ground that if you get on it, but you time it quick enough and the enemy lands on it, they get hit with the spike instead of you. And then there's other ones like little traps here and there, or like these little like egg bombs kind of thing in the other levels where they explode on impact when somebody's in the radius, or in the other one where there's like these little night things, if you stand right next to them that you get hit. There's also the arrow variation of that, and there's also like this little trap thingy. If you step on it, it fires arrows, and you can actually use that to your advantage if you're smart about it. And this game makes you think a lot because even though you're zipping around throughout the levels, you have to really think about what you're doing because I made the mistake of trying to do this by brute force. And I've got to say, this game is not one of those games where you can just go in and go nuts. In this game, you actually have to think a little bit because enemies can hit you at almost any time. Sometimes you get very overwhelmed in terms of how many enemies on the screen, so you have to constantly be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what weapon you use, be aware of what perks you have, and be aware of how you're going to deal with each situation, because every time you die, the levels change, and so sometimes the enemy types. So you have to be aware, you have to always be on your feet, you always have to be ready for something new, because in this game there's a lot of stuff that it can throw at you without you even knowing it. And I've got to say, the art style for this game is absolutely beautiful. I didn't think that the 2D art style in this kind of game would actually look very good, and it looks very clean and it looks very detailed, and I absolutely like this style a lot, because I was just super impressed on how good the game looked. Even though Zagreus and like the enemy types are like 3D models, like the surroundings around you look very beautiful, it's very colorful, and each level that you go through feels different, and it looks very beautiful and stunning as you progress the levels. And I gotta say, the one thing that I kinda bothered me about this game was kind of the process of you repeating deaths over and over again, because there's 3 different levels they have to go through. There's Tartarus, there's the fire one, and then there's the one right after that, which is basically the line between the mortal realm and the underworld. And with those 3, you have to go through them every single time if you're trying to do it in traditional means, like I did. Because in this game, there's actually like a safety feature where if you don't want to go through the hassle of trying to do everything in one go, you can do it so that it gives you like a handicap, so you don't have to go through the hassle of starting every single attempt over and over again to the point where it gets repetitive. And I feel like sometimes it did kind of feel repetitive, as you die over and over again if you're trying to do the proper way to play this game. Because the proper way to play this game is that you have to do it all in one go. You have to beat all the levels in a single attempt. But even though that sounds hard on paper, there's actually a lot of stuff that the game does in order to help you out. For instance, since none of like the other gods in Olympus knew that Zagreus existed, they actually help him out as he progresses the story. Each of them gives a perk to him if you find them. And that's the great thing about this game in terms of replayability, is because each god is randomly selected, and it's random which one you get. And you get to choose between 3 different perks, and you only get to choose one of them. And if you want like one that you might have thought that may have been more useful in the future, you just have to find that god's emblem again, and hopefully it spawns again. There's a bunch of different types of perks for you to unlock for Zagreus, because you have stuff like Athena, Zeus, Aphrodite, Dionysus, Ares, and each one gives you something different. Like for instance, Athena is more your defensive one, where you get certain abilities that your dash you become invulnerable, or you can deflect projectiles when you throw your spell shield down, or you become vulnerable again, as like I mentioned, in your attacks sometimes if you get hit. And then you have stuff like Ares, which is more offensive depending on which perk you get from him, because sometimes you get his doom effect, or if you hit an enemy, it does a second attack right after. You choose someone like Aphrodite, where she inflicts like a weak mechanic, where enemies become more vulnerable if you hit them, or depending on which perk you get. There's like a ton of perks for each god, and each one does something different, and each one is depending on how you want to play the game. Because each perk does help you out a ton, and I've got to say these perks really do help out a ton, and I've got to say you got to learn and memorize which god does what, because as you're basically playing over and over again, you start to learn on which perks are most beneficial and which ones are not. And I've got to say, me personally, I think Aphrodite's was the most useless in terms of all of the gods, because every other god has a perk that is way more useful compared to hers. Like the goddess of seasons, which I forgot her name, but she has like the chilled effect where it does damage over time, and so does Dionysus. He has the hangover effect, which basically does the same thing, where it does damage over time. And then you have Zeus's, where if you dash, a lightning strikes, or when you hit a certain enemy, it causes like a second attack to be a lightning bolt, and sometimes it stuns them. It's like every other god I feel like is more beneficial except for Aphrodite's. But I think the only redeeming quality about Aphrodite's was probably her version of the cast, Because in this game, you only have 3 basic moves that you can actually use to fight people. You have your regular attack, your special, which depending on which weapon you choose does something different. And then you have your call, which is a projectile that you can throw at enemies, but it's kind of like a one-time thing where if you hit someone, it sticks out to them and you have to wait until the call comes back to you, or you kill them and you get the call, the little like orb thing back. And there's also another mechanic that you can use, and it's called the call. And depending on which god you get the call for, it does something different. Because your call is your ultimate move kind of thing that gives you a boost in sometimes in power, or sometimes it's a projectile that helps you out if you're in a bind. Like for instance, Athena's is you become invulnerable for a certain amount of time, so you go absolutely crazy and try to hit everything and do as much damage as possible. And then you have someone like Artemis, where if you wait until the gauge goes all the way up, she sends a ton of arrows towards your enemies, and they're heat-seeking arrows, so they'll most likely hit the target most of the time. And then you have like Zeus, where he does like lightning strikes, and as you move, the lightning strikes follow you, and just each god does something different. And I love this aspect because it gives you a lot of variety and a lot of ways for you to play the game. The only thing that kind of sucks is that it's all RNG, so you never get the same perks, or you might not even get the same god every single attempt. So you kind of have to base it on luck a little bit as you're progressing the game, and you have to learn on which god does what and how each perk would benefit you if you may not have run into Ares and you run into Athena instead, and stuff like that. And I really did like the characters in this game. I really do like the depictions of each god, because I know like realistically each god was very cruel, like especially Zeus, but in this game I really like the lightheartedness, and I really do like the interactions between every single character. I think the interaction that I like the most was the interaction between Zagreus and his father, because you can tell that Hades does care for Zagreus, but Zagreus wants to find answers and he's not giving it to him. So you kind of feel like this hatred or like resentment against his father, but you do like the interaction between them. And every interaction between the gods I actually like, especially when you deal with the Furies, because in this game every single section of the level has a boss fight. In the first one, it's the Furies, and it's the 3 sisters, and you can tell that there's like a relationship between Zagreus and Meg, which is like the first Fury you fight. They have some secret past, and I actually like the dialogue a lot in this game. And every time you play and every time you die, they say something different, or they give you some new information, or they tell you like a secret strategy on how to deal with certain enemies. Like a lot of this game really does help you on how to deal with its difficulty, because this game is actually pretty difficult. Like there's no like difficulty in this game except for if you try to do like the god mode, which is super challenging, and I might go back and play it, but I'm probably not, because I want to play other games right now. But anyways, and another thing that I really did like about this game is that there is a lot of the time you have to choose on which path you want to go on, because after each level you have to choose between like a certain item you want. Sometimes it may be, I want to go this way for a health boost, for maximum health, or you want to go this way to get a perk from a certain god, depending on which one it tells you it is, or you want to go this way to get more money, or you want to this way to get gems, or you want to go this way to get darkness, or you want to go this way to get like other stuff. Like there's a lot of choice for you to basically go around and decide for yourself in this game, and I really do like it because you get to choose how you want to play. You get to choose on whether you want more health, or maybe you want more perks to help you in battle, but it all depends, because every single choice that you make in this game is very significant, and if you make the wrong one, it will bite you in the butt. And this game, as I said before, is very, very unforgiving, especially when you have certain types of weapons. And in this game, there's actually a couple of weapons. You have like a sword, you have a spear, you have a shield, you have like this like bow, you have like these freaking gauntlet things where like you punch it super fast, and then you have like the gun. But the thing I kind of didn't like in this game is that if you choose a certain weapon, you have to stick to it. Like there's no like, oh, I want to use this weapon for this time or this weapon for that time, because like as you get more like serious into the game, you have to only choose one weapon for you to main, because as you get stronger and stronger and the weapon begins stronger, you actually get to develop like extra abilities for the weapon in order to make it stronger, in order to do special things. And the thing is, I feel like some weapons were created better than others, because to me the bow felt really useless, because since there's like a bunch of enemies around and you're constantly moving, the bow, you have to kind of be still the entire time you're trying to fire it. And the spear is actually one of the really good ones where you can actually be longer ranges. And the sword, same, it's kind of like that one where you can just move around freely and hit everything. But the punching one, I feel like, is not the greatest either, because its long range or like its special attack can't really do anything in terms of if you're trying to attack from like a certain radius, because you have to get right up, like right in their freaking face, the freaking enemy, if you want to use it. And a lot of the time I feel like you can't just go right up to an enemy, because they might just get a hit on you all of a sudden. You're like, what the heck happened? And I think the other weapon that I felt like was kind of useless too was the gun. Like, the gun doesn't have a lot of range. It's like, it's a very like close range gun, so I felt like it was kind of useless. And I think the best weapon in this game is the freaking shield. Like, the shield is the best fucking weapon in this game, hands down. I use the shield and it's so freaking versatile. You can go up close or you can throw it from afar. You can get certain perks that allow you to use the shield in creative ways. There's like the one where it makes it freaking spin faster, or it makes it like go faster, or it rebounds off more enemies, off of walls more. Because I use the shield because to me it was the most efficient one in terms of trying to beat the game. Because the other weapons, I felt like they weren't as useful. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but I feel like the shield was just the best weapon overall, because you can just attack whenever you want with it. You can choose when to attack. You can get up close and you can throw the shield and you can move around and do damage as you're moving around. And to me, the shield was a lot more appropriate for the gameplay, since this is a roguelike game, so you're moving around constantly and trying to do damage as much as possible. And for me, the shield did that. And if you're gonna play this game, I'd say use the shield, because to me it was the most fun and it was the most useful one out of all the weapons. Because like the gun and the arrow, the freaking bow one, I felt like they didn't do enough for me to try to at least use it. But you can go out of your way to at least try every other weapon to see which one feels more comfortable to you and what your playstyle might be as you're playing Hades. And one thing about this game too is that it is very hard for you to heal. Like, a lot of the time you're not gonna get health items. You have to basically rely on a certain like room or something to give you a health boost or something like that. But another way for you to help you with that is that as you're playing the game, as you're doing stuff, so you unlock certain items that you can equip right before you start the run that help you out in certain ways. Like, some of them are, which is the one I use, which is like the health one. I think it's the Collar of Cerberus, where it gives you a maximum health boost. And as you play the game, the item gets stronger and stronger, and then your health goes up. Same thing with the other ones, where there's one where you can get money at the start of the run. It starts at 100, and then it goes up more and more. And then there's the other one where it gives you like the better chance of getting rare boons. The boon is the perk for the gods, so that if you choose that one, you want to get perks faster, or the better ones faster, you can do that. And there's a bunch of items for you to unlock, and you can just go out of your way to at least try every item and see which one works for you best. And the boss fights in this game were actually a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun memorizing their movements, memorizing what they would do, especially like the Furies, because each one is very similar in some ways, but they kind of do something different in terms of like their specials and stuff. So you kind of like memorize and stuff, and then you can just like freaking plow through it like I did. The only boss fight I hated was Theseus and the Minotaur, because when you first fight them, this is like the first time you fight two bosses at the same time, so that it becomes a lot more challenging. And I really did like the challenge, because you kind of have to think on your toes a lot on how maybe I should deal with one or the other. Which one do I deal with first? So it really does feel like you have to go out of your way to try to memorize movement. You have to memorize what each boss does, and you have to basically try your best to basically not get hit. Because in this game, if you get hit, it is very unforgiving. But Another thing that really does help is that there is the attribute system. And as I mentioned before, I mentioned like this darkness thing. Darkness is basically the currency that you use to upgrade your stat boost. And there's actually 2 versions of the stat boost. Each one there's like a bunch of them. There's one with like maximum health, how many coins you get per like dungeon, or you get the Death Defiance one, which is the freaking best thing you can upgrade, because Death Defiance is basically a revive. And I recommend doing that one first, because if you're trying to like get as far in the game as possible, the Death Defiance really does help out a lot. And each perk has its own variation depending on which one you choose. You only get to choose one. Like for instance, there's the one where you can do more damage. It's either you do more damage if you're hitting someone from behind, or your special and your attack do more damage. And I chose that one because it was a lot more useful than trying to hit someone in the back and doing damage, because most of the time I wasn't hitting people in the back. I went like front, and then occasionally you gotta do it, but other than that, I wouldn't say go for the one where you hit people behind the back. And there's a bunch of different perks for you to try out, and some are way more useful than others, but this attribute system really did help out a lot, because if you're trying to play the game like I did in just one run, it's really useful for you to have all of the benefits as much as possible, because after every level it gets harder and harder. So you have to be ready, and you have to be prepared for you to take on whatever lies ahead. And another thing that helps you out is that there's like this little like construction thing that you can do, where you collect gems and you tell like the ghost person that you are gonna give the gems to, and they do certain things to the level. Sometimes it'll add like a little save point for you to replenish your health. There's another one where little like vases around the levels give you coins, and you can do that to get more coins faster. Or there's another one where it adds extra levels or does something different. And you can even decorate your room. You can even decorate like the little hall that is in the House of Hades. There's actually a bunch of like stuff for you to do after you finish the game once. Because after you finish the game once, you can actually play the game over and over again, and it reveals secrets, and the story basically keeps going the more and more you play, even after completing the whole thing in one go the first time. So I definitely say play the game multiple times if you're trying to do it. And after you finish the game, you actually get like a little harder variation of the game, where you can add like a status effect that affects the gameplay, like enemies are faster, you do less damage, stuff like that, where you can just play the game even harder than it already was. And honestly, after doing some of that, I had a lot of fun with this game, and I say go out and try it, because it's very, very good in terms of gameplay and all that stuff. And one last thing about the game is the soundtrack. The soundtrack in this game is actually very good. It was very catchy. I like the atmosphere that it provided for the game, because you're basically in the underworld, so like it's gotta have some music to accompany that. And it was very, very stylized. I enjoyed the music, and it just added a lot to the experience, knowing that this team really did go out of their way to make the game as enjoyable as possible. And this game was very, very enjoyable. I like the characters, I like the dialogue between them. I like how you can create bonds with certain gods if you give them like a little nectar thing and they give you something in return. Like there's a lot of interaction between all of the stuff and all of the characters, and I really did enjoy it overall. It was a great experience. And now it's time for me to give the final verdict for Hades. This game was very, very good. It was unbelievable how good it was. With this interesting cast of characters and this interesting story that just evolves as you play more and more, I can see why people thought this game should have won the Game Awards, I think it was 2 years ago. But I think the main reason for that was that it wasn't accessible to a majority of the gaming community, so I could see why it lost. But I definitely see now why this was one of like the most picked games for the Game Awards to win. And my final verdict for Hades, it's a freaking 10 out of 10, this game. It was so much fun. I had a lot of fun playing it, even though I got angry a lot from the stupid replayability. But I really did enjoy this game a lot. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the gameplay. The gameplay was so much fun. And I just go freaking try out this game. If you want to try out this game, It's available on PC, and it's now available on console if you want to play Hades. And I definitely recommend go trying this out. It's unbelievable how much effort went into this game, and just like go try it out, man. It's so much fun. And with that, thank you guys for stopping by. Let me know what you guys think of Hades in the comments. If you want to see me stream, I do stream occasionally on Twitch, or if you want to get like the audio version of this, go on Did You Get the Memo? I'll leave the link in the description as well. And I've got another announcement. Go check out the Gaming Spidey on Twitch, because he's trying to get to 50 followers, and he'll do a laxative challenge if he gets to 50 followers, and I want to see him do it. So if you haven't, go check out the Gaming Spidey. I will leave the Twitch in the description as well. But thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next time on Did You Get the Memo? Bye bye.